Hello and welcome to another episode of Untold Chapters with Austin Macauley Publishers. Today we're joined with Simon Register, the author of Billy Bookley and My Magic Book of Tricks. Good afternoon, Simon. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. How are you?
I'm absolutely fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Do you want to start with telling us a bit about yourself and your book, Billy Bookley and My Magic Book of Tricks?
Right, tell you about me. That's one of the tougher questions, that one, isn't it? You've either got a problem either sounding too modest or too arrogant sometimes with a question like that, haven't you?
Oh,
So
bless you. I'm sure you won't.
the cliche answer is the obvious one is father of two to their loving wife, etc., etc., etc. But I suppose all that's true. But obviously, there's more to that. The extended answer would be I am first time author, own a building company, father of two, married to a loving wife of Katie, and just a very open-minded, outgoing, social loving man, really, who just enjoys life. That's me in a nutshell.
Oh, perfect. So I understand you wrote this book with your children and your family in mind. How did they impact how you started to develop the story and why you wrote the story?
Well, it all started off really just because when my eldest son, Henry, who was credited in the book, when he's 8 now, but when he was much younger, we just obviously spend a lot of time making stories up as well as reading to him. You'd be just as you went along through life about dinosaurs, about cars, you just make things up off the top of your head. And then one day I had him sort of bouncing on my tummy as I was reading to him and just sort of created Billy Buckley from my head as quick as anything. Um, and he enjoyed it, seemed to enjoy it, so which gave me a bit of inspiration. And then from that point on, I just thought, you know what, I quite enjoyed that. Let's see if I can put something on paper, really. And then and sort of took it from there.
Oh, lovely. Well, the book itself, I know everyone listening can't see it, but it's such a lovely cover. It's got lovely illustrations. There's even a page inside where you can turn it around and see the library and him climbing up all the books, and that's my favorite page. Does your son have any favorite bits of the book, or is it just the whole thing? He just loves it all.
Well, I mean, you get the obvious one with children of that age. I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and recently we just had a book reading at their school.
Oh, lovely.
So as you can imagine, the humour of a 5 and an 8-year-old boy and everyone else in the school is most humour is based around bottoms and trumps, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which they think is the funniest thing in the world. So obviously, when it was read out in the assembly and that part come up about stopping Trump stink, obviously probably got the biggest laugh. But that's just the nature of a nature of a child, isn't it? To be honest, I'm saying nature of a child. I think most of the teachers found that part the funniest as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, that bit. I did like that bit.
yeah, we never stop being kids, really, do we?
No, never. So how did the character Billy Bookley come about? Was he, like you said, it just was off the top of your head, but was it inspired by anyone? Did you just think, oh, that's a good idea, or was it a kind of developed idea?
Do you know what? I would say, obviously, my first instinct is it's a fictional character,
Yeah,
but I suppose it is a fictional character, but probably subconsciously, we all know this kind of young boy or girl at school that has troubles to not quite fit in the same way as some. And probably through life, everyone does, even as adults, we know these people, don't we? So I didn't base it on anyone or anything, but probably in my subconscious, we all know that person. However, I think it's a bit of a case of it's how you want I think how can I put this? When you become a parent, your mindset changes a little bit, and it's what you want from your children. One, you don't want them to be the one that gets bullied, but also as equally important, you don't want them to be one that does the bullying either. So it was trying to inspire that there's other ways to be popular and be clever. There's books as well as sport. Not everyone can be a sportsman, so we have to sometimes find our strengths, and by reading that can give you another strength.
definitely. I think it's a lovely message to send to kids where if they're feeling a bit insecure, they can kind of read Billy Bookley and think, oh, I can relate to him. I might not be able to make a potion to make everyone like me, but I can make people like me in their own way, however they express themselves, because that's just an important thing in life. Not everyone's the same, but
Absolutely. And I think
yeah.
the other two, I mean, obviously you got someone like a Billy Buckley in everyone's school. And if they're not popular, sometimes they can lose themselves in a book, in education, whether it be a fantasy or about nature, and they can lose themselves in that moment and enjoy the stories that are in front of them, and it's a bit of escapism for them. The weird fate of that is the fact that by doing that, indirectly you are constantly educating yourself, which then comes to its fore later on in life and strengthens you in other ways.
So, what would you say to a child that might be struggling with similar issue to Billy?
What would I say to a child like that? I mean,
Or what advice would you give them?
I would say probably, do you know what? Keep going. Yeah. So, just keep going. That life doesn't stay like that forever. If you're struggling, stay strong. And I think that kind we all develop and we all become different people at different times. So I would say your time will come. Your time will come to shine. You'll become a better person at different levels in your life. I mean, with that in mind, I mean, and all the kind of things that sometimes make you quirky at school are the things you get picked on. They're probably the kind of things that make you more interesting as you're older. So I mean, you think about some of these like the celebrities, the musicians, the singers out of there. If they were just Joe Average, they wouldn't be that level of entertainer. So it's the quirkiness that probably got picked on at school and not recognised properly. It's the things that's their strength when they get older. So just be you. Simple as that. Be you.
And I think that can come through in later in life. Like you said, everyone just can keep on going, no matter what's going on, no matter who's struggling. It's not exclusively for kids at school. And I think that's a really lovely message to be sending across to everyone.
Yeah, because I think every parent tries to live through their children a little bit, and everyone wants them to be the next rock star, the next sportsman. And the truth is, only a very small percentage are ever going to really achieve that. So there's other things. You could be an engineer, an architect, but whatever you choose to be, whether it be from I don't know, a bin man, a window cleaner, to a builder, to a rock star, just be the whatever you choose to be the best version of it, and just give it your best shot.
I see that we've spoke a bit about being a rock star and being a musician. So you've mentioned to me previously that that really inspired you as well.
I'm a huge music fan. My wife calls me the music man.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not instrumentalist and I'm not a singer by any stretch of the imagination, but I enjoy my music to quite a passion. But not just listening to it and dancing to it. I'm one for listening to lyrics. And when you listen to certain bands, they're really good at telling stories through music as well. So I think I've always enjoyed lyrics, which I think is probably taken from that straight into me writing this book. Even like bands like from the old time, from the sort of late 70s, early 80s, things like Squeeze and then into the House Martins, Paul Eaton, when you listen to the way they write their songs, it's a story in rhythm, which is why probably my book is done with rhythm as well, rather than just out and out flat story. So music does play a part heavily in my life.
The book flows so well with the rhythm inside. I think it definitely puts it apart from other kids' books because it kind of, the way it's written on the page as well, it flows. It does kind of remind me of like a music sheet or something.
Yeah, almost to a point where it's an advanced nursery rhyme almost.
Yeah.
But I think when you're reading to a child and when they start to read themselves, because it's aimed at a certain age range, I think the rhyming does help at that point because it gives them that rhythm as they read along, and it's also for the parents. It keeps it a little bit more fun, which engages them a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I used to always love a book that rhymed when I was younger.
I mean, we've all done Julia Donaldson's, haven't we? To want to drop a name in, and they do. I mean, they're basically. I think did she not start off writing songs for children's TV programs or something like that? And and then went into writing. And you can really tell the way she writes, can't you?
Yeah. Um, so how did you find the illustration process? So obviously Charlie Folks, is it,
Yeah, John.
illustrated your book?
Well, that was a bit of a strange fluke of chance how it began early doors because when I first wrote the book, then we had to take it to the point where we need some illustrations for this. While we were talking this through, then my mother-in-law happened to just say, "You do realise that Charlie Folks, his family friend, who I don't personally know at that time, she's a children's illustrator." And we're like, "Okay, let's get a number, let's get in touch, and let's see where we can go with this." So I then paid for just some characterization, just to see well, first of all, if I liked her styling. Then when looked into it, I thought, yeah, I think that's the kind of look I'm going for. So we did the characterization. She then sent me an image through of what she saw Billy Buckley with a bit of guidance from me, how I sort of visioned him. And it happened quite quick because we've quite soon realized we were on the same page of how he would look. And when I got the final draft from him, I thought, yeah, that's him. That's exactly who he is. That is Billy Buckley. So at that point, then, she said, right, let's get things moving. Let's get a book done.
I bet that was kind of a surreal experience as well, considering you kind of came up with Billy Bookley in your head. You must have had such a vision of what he looked like to get it all down on paper from someone else and in such like a lovely, charming way. Like even his little expressions and his teeth are so cute. I think it must have been surreal to see it all put together.
I must admit, you're right. When it first came through, when the first images came through via email of who he was, and he then came from on paper, he came to life, and you start getting a little bit excited. Then you feel like you almost know him. It's quite,
Yeah,
and you do. He's now not just something in your mind. He's this real character. And because she nailed it so well first time, I was just like, yeah, it started to put a smile on my face about that point, and really thinking, you know what, this could actually happen. I could do this.
definitely. What advice would you give an aspiring children's author? Would you recommend getting an illustrator, or would you do anything differently with your writing process or developing the storyline, or do you think you did it exactly how you would have?
Um, I've got this is my first one, so I've got nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
So, as regards to is it exactly how I would do it? I suppose time will tell with that when I get to my second one, which I've already wrote, and that's ready to go. But then I'm not in that process yet. So I think it's gone relatively smooth up to now. So my advice would be, if anyone's thinking of doing it, is do it. Simple. That's it. It's as simple as that. Do it. You never know what can come from it. And the worst case is, if nothing comes from it, you've enjoyed writing, and you can read it to your kids if you want to, on the back of a notepad, and just enjoy it for what it is. But you might get lucky. You might actually get it out there. Who knows? Um, Take your time, because it's not a quick overnight process. It is long winded. I think that's probably the biggest surprise for me is it does take longer than you think, but then you suddenly start to realize there's a lot goes into it. So you've got to get your head around that a little bit. And as for the illustrator, find the right one, because I would say when you look round at illustrators, they're all very good. They're talented people, very clever. The way they can pull it off the page, and it's all the little details that you notice. But just because they're good and they're talented, it might not suit your vision. So you've got to find the right one. That's my main thing. I was lucky I found the right one first time. Not everyone's necessarily going to do that. But with that in mind, yeah, go for it. Enjoy it. Enjoy your writing, and write about something you actually care about. So you've got more passion, and it comes across on the page more, I think.
I think that applies to most genres as well. You've just got to get started with it. If it fails, and it fails, and you try again. But like you said, yours just happened to work out amazingly. So you should be really proud of your achievement. I really love your book.
But I sort of am, but I think at the moment it still feels a bit surreal. I think that
Yeah,
when you hit on that word first about when he first came to life as such, and so at the moment I'm still sort of thinking we're in the early stages, even though it's out on sale now. It's something that's happening somewhere else, and at this point now I'm not seeing it happen. So it's all a bit surreal. I know it's out there, and I've got this tangible book in my grasp in the house, and our friends have read it and and I get a lot of good feedback, but it is still a little bit surreal. So yes, I'm proud of it, but it still leaves you a little bit like, is it actually happened? It is a bit,
publishing definitely is a bit of a long process, but it'll be worth it in the end. It definitely
yeah.
has potential.
And like I said, I've already wrote the second one. I just sort of sat back trying to work out where I go with this, and I'm like, obviously at some point I need to talk to Charlie again and get a
Yeah,
characterization from her again as to where it goes and who he is, and bring him to life again.
definitely. One of my last questions was, can we expect any more adventures with Billy? Obviously, you've said there's a second one in the process. Do you want to give us a little teaser, or is that something you want to keep to
Yeah,
yourself?
it's Stanley Short, King of Sport. It's already fully wrote. It's gone out there, and I'm just trying to sit back and take it in and move it forward from that point at the moment because I need to get Charlie involved to get it to that next level. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. That one's my mum read it actually for the first time last night, even though I don't know where she's been looking. It's been out there for a long time, so I don't know what she's been up to. But she then fed me back last night, and her first instinct was, "I know exactly who that's wrote about." And I went, "Who?" And she went, "Lawrence," which is my youngest son. And I just went, "Do you know what? I didn't write it about him, but maybe the subconscious did." I said, "I didn't really realize that." So I suppose your mind gets inspired without really knowing you're doing it. But as for Billy Buckley, I've got ideas for him. I'm just trying to work out where he goes. I have got an idea, but it's not quite there yet. There's lots of little snippets floating around in my head because that's sort of how I do my writing. I write in my head as I'll just walk or run or exercise because obviously I do a lot of exercise, and that's where my headspace is best. And then once it's in my head, I just then keep just chucking it down on notepads until it becomes a story, and then edit it. Then so I write quite roughly, if that's the
Yeah,
best way to put it.
everyone's
So
got different ways of writing.
I don't sit there with a on a desk with a pen and paper or a laptop just tapping away or writing away. I just sort of save it in my head and it all stays in there, a bit like Rain Man, and it pops out eventually.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to see the next one that comes out because as much as I love Billy Bookley, I would love to see something different, and that sounds like it's going to be great. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. There will be links in the description below to buy Billy Bookley and my Magic Book of Tricks.